Hi, I'm Andy Kaufman, host of the People and Projects podcast. Hope you're having a great day. I just wrapped up a keynote with a group of global leaders, and what they wanted to talk about today in our discussion was kind of what Agile is. And so if you could cover it in an hour, what would they need to know? And we had a really interesting discussion, and one of the topics was kind of the origins of Agile, in that part of it is from the Lean movement. And we talked about Lean. When I personally think of Lean, a big part of that, what I think of, is eliminating waste. And I like to say that when you look through the world through the lens of waste, it can be a rather depressing place. What I mean by that is we are tripping over waste all over the place. Just last week I did a one-day turn to speak out in California, and I'm standing in line in the TSA pre-check, and I can hear the TSA agent saying, "Hey, if you don't have TSA pre-check, you're in the wrong line." And he kind of kept saying it over and over, and sending people out of the line. And as I got up there, I'm like, "Hey, does this happen very often?" And he's like, "It happens all the time. Happens all the time." And then, a lot of times they don't even speak English. Now, what I thought was interesting about that whole thing was the phrase, "it happens all the time." Think about that situation. Where was the waste? There was the waste of people who went through the wrong line, so they had to wait until they got through that. And then they had to go to another one. That was a waste for them. It was a waste for those of us in line that had to wait for other people that shouldn't have been there. But there's also the waste of the emotional energy that you could tell it was like bubbling up in these TSA agents. And there is such a thing as secondhand stress. It was spilling over to other people. It was filled with waste. I think it's an interesting thing. It happens all the time. And the fact that many of them don't speak English means, well, they need to know better. Now, there are interventions that you can take, but my point is not about making airports more efficient at this point. I want you to think about, where is there waste in your world? Think about, where is it that it happens all the time, or often enough that it's wasted energy, wasted time, waiting for handoffs? In fact, here's what I'd love to do. I'd love to hear from you. What are some examples of waste that you have run into in recent weeks? What's an example? And what are some lessons you've learned about eliminating waste? Regardless of whether this has to do with Agile approaches when it comes to our projects or not, where do you see waste? And what are some of your favorite ways to identify it and get rid of it? If you're watching this on social media, leave a comment below. If you're watching this on the podcast stream, send me an email. I'd love to hear from you. If you find this helpful, give it a like and share it with your network. Have a great one.